Everybody, welcome. My name is Jerry, and we are here for a new episode of Fuerte como Mujer. Today, we have a really special guest, a multiple time IPF world champion and medalist in the under 47 kilo weight class. With us today is Heather Connor. Hi, Heather.
Hi, how are y'all?
We are so excited to have you here, and we have a ton of questions about
Okay.
your career in powerlifting. So, if you could tell us to begin, how did you get started? How did you decide to become a powerlifter?
This is one of my favorite questions I always get asked, right? Because some people they have such an extravagant story, like something happened in their life that got them in the gym. And unfortunately, this part of my career is not too exciting because I was training out of the YMCA, which is a global or at least national gym within the US. I don't know if it's global, but so very well known, like commercial gym in the United States, and I kind of went there just to keep physically fit, and I was approached by a pastor while I was walking on the treadmill. I don't quite remember if that treadmill was my actual workout for that day, but I do know I was walking quite a bit on that treadmill when I was approached. And I guess they had formed a powerlifting team per se,
Okay.
um, to compete at a up and coming competition. And one of their teammates had dropped out for whatever reason, and they were trying to recruit more people to come in on the team. And I had nothing better to do. I was like, all right, sure. And
Why not?
the only thing I knew out of this whole sport was whoever was the strongest one. I didn't know rules, didn't know anything. So I just went into training like, okay, I'll just see how much weight I can pick up.
That's fun. It's like, okay, let's give it a shot.
Like,
I'm
that
strong.
one guy that goes around and doesn't work out but talks to everybody in the gym? That is what happened to me that day. I guess there was nobody else in the gym worth talking to, and it was me that day.
Well,
So, thanks, Pastor Steve. You're the reason I got into powerlifting.
the beginning is always different for everybody. Like, I've never heard that story before.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah,
fun. It's unique, see? Just
yeah,
gym guy approach. And now here we are.
yeah.
And but when you started training, how long ago was that? Like, how many years ago was it?
It's almost been 10 years.
Wow.
2025 will mark my 10-year mark. So
Wow.
that's crazy to even think
So,
about.
yeah.
Decade.
And on those early competitions, like on those meets, how did you like face those? Like as a beginner? Do you
So
remember
oh, yeah,
the
I
experience?
remember, and you know why I remember? Because it's actually very embarrassing. So, while me getting introduced to powerlifting may have not been the coolest, greatest story in the world, um, my first competition, again, all I knew was I had to be the strongest person that day. Didn't know the rules, and for whatever reason, nobody told me the rules.
Oh no!
Maybe, if I can take accountability for myself, maybe I should have looked up what are the rules of this sport. Um, that would have been very helpful for me. So I ended up getting disqualified because of that.
Oh
Um,
no!
I just was like, "What do you mean I have to wait for a press command on bench? I haven't been doing this the whole 3 weeks I've been training." So I get disqualified, and my heart is at this point, like, broken because I've always been very, very good at sports, and failing was never something I was very too familiar with in sports. So this was a very humbling experience. But the embarrassing part that comes in wasn't from getting disqualified. It was my dad taking me to a restaurant to kind of like cheer me up afterwards because I was probably making the whole restaurant feel uncomfortable because I was just crying because
Oh,
I
no.
hated that I got disqualified. And so I'm sitting there crying, and my dad, who is not like a very emotional person, like at all, he basically was like, "Hey, like you can keep crying and just quit and figure something else out, or you can find another competition because there's definitely going to be more and you can learn the rules." And I was like, yeah, like that sounds really logical actually. I'm going to keep crying while I think about this, but I did end up signing up for another competition, was waitlisted, and within like a week of that competition, I guess somebody was unable to compete, so they moved me off the wait list to be able to compete, and I went 9 for 9 my second competition. I learned the rules.
Wow.
Like, I left that gym, I left that team, I
Yeah.
left everything. I'm like, fresh start, first rule of business, I need to learn the rules.
Yeah. But that's so amazing because I guess everybody's like really nervous about that in the first competition. Like that might happen
Yeah,
to them, and it actually happened to you.
and you know what? If you know
But
the rules, I can see
you
that
just
being
went,
a good reason to be nervous. Nobody wants
yeah.
that.
And most people, when they face that, they're just too broken. They don't want to keep on moving on, and you just like, or like, okay, I'm taking my dad's advice. I'm gonna read the book.
Yeah, the one time I take my
Let's
dad's
go.
advice, like, because, as like, I was at that age where, gosh, I'm so tired of like my parents always being right. Like, I'm in college, I know everything. What do you mean? Um, so I am, in the grand scheme of things, glad I kind of listened to that instead of just continually making everybody uncomfortable in that restaurant and you know, making an already not so cool situation even worse.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, big learning experience.
Definitely a big learning experience. Like, yeah, learn the rules. First rule of powerlifting, learn the rules. So, you started your career and everything, but
Mhm.
do you remember or do you recall an exact meet that you said, hmm, I think I can go to a bigger level? Like, you noticed that you were really good at these and you were ready to go on to bigger things. Like, do you remember that specific
Yeah,
time?
so it was actually my second competition, and obviously this is where the nerves kicked in because this is my second competition after just being disqualified from my first one. And I remember I was waiting in line for weigh-ins, and there obviously was a bunch of other women of different ages around me and who had been at this last competition. And all I hear is them saying like, "Hey, that girl's really, really strong." And I'm like, "Me? Are we not like recalling what happened last time?" Like, I'm so unsure. But what those people remembered is not me being disqualified, but this girl definitely has some strength there. Hopefully, she's learned the rules by this point.
Yeah.
And she's like, I mean, they were just talking me up, and it made me feel like I belonged. It made me feel so special. And I think that's what I like about the local competition, like in the grand scheme of things, is there's so many lifters at like the beginner intermediate stage who are just so encouraging, right? And they made me feel like I was somebody, even though like at that point I'm still technically considered a nobody. Like, nobody in the United States knows who I am, but this small group of women who are just telling other women like, no, she's really strong, like that gave me the confidence to be like, maybe I am really good. Like, maybe I should do good at this competition. And I did. So I'm like, hey, cool. Actually, they might be right. So that was like the last junior competition I was able to do. I aged out into the open, which was a few months later. And in the open, it was a state competition where at that time we could break national records. And I ended up breaking every national record in the 47 kilo open class. And I was like, all right, what is next? And it was nationals. So that's where my goal was set on, like, okay, I'm good to be at nationals. Let's go do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your first competition, like you just didn't win because of the rules, but you had the strength. But you forgot about that, and then everybody just were like, "No, dude, you really are strong." Like,
yeah, and I still remember
you got this.
those women, and they're still like these two women that just stay in my head. They are still two of the most encouraging women in this entire sport. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. They're in North Carolina. They're master lifters now, but still just so freaking inspiring. Cindy Amatuzo, Tracy Cook. It doesn't get any better than these two women.
That's great. I hope you still keep in touch with them and everything.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
like
That's
Cindy,
awesome.
not as much. She's kind of like in the behind the scenes with the reffing and everything like that, and like pretty much at this point keeping like just a low profile. But Tracy, she's still out there crushing it, enjoying life. Just her smile is just
Great.
so infectious. Like, I love it. She's rocking it.
It's amazing what the community can do when you have that support and you have women
Yeah,
supporting each other. It's like, yeah, you got this. You can keep on going, and
exactly.
it's just,
Exactly.
it's great. It's great to see. And moving a little bit about your competitions in the worlds, in
Mhm.
IPF worlds, you've been to a lot of them. You
Yeah.
have a lot of medals.
Yeah, like,
And
the first Worlds was actually in Texas, and I was a reserve. So I finished second at that nationals, which I thought was pretty freaking cool. My first nationals, I placed
yeah,
second. Went on to finish first in my weight class at the Arnold that following year. And then Worlds was in Killeen, Texas. And at this point, like, I'm still on the reserve list. But again, like, I don't know what it is, but being like a few weeks out, somebody drops. And they're like, okay, so we have what's called the Carpino score. And I was selected based off of that to then be put on the US team. So with just that quickness, I went from, okay, like I placed second at nationals. Oh my gosh, now I'm going to worlds, where I ended up placing second behind Puerto Rico. Um, and I remember like I had the opportunity to pull for the win. And again, like I'm still like a year within my lifting journey. So those nerves, like they were still very, very heavy. And knowing I was pulling for the win, like that was exciting. Like everybody was on their feet. And as the competitor that I am now, like I can kind of black out that noise. Like you could be cheering as loud as you want, and I'm not going to hear you. Like I'm too zoned in, locked in, whatever you want to call it. But I remember in that moment, I could hear the announcer going crazy. I could see all these international athletes like on their feet, just screaming. And I saw the weight on the bar. I was like, oh, I'm not getting that. Like I immediately checked out. I had never seen that weight. It didn't even budge off the ground, but I was already secured second place at that world championship.
oh,
And it's one of those things where when you have the chance to pull for the win, pull for the win. Like go ahead and do it. Like you have everything to gain and really nothing to lose because you're already secured that second place. And I think I knew, like, I always reflect after competitions, like, okay, this is what I need to do to be better because now my name is out there and people know like who I am. And I think that actually is what kickstarted my career in powerlifting. And it kind of just went up from there fast.
yeah, definitely. I saw all your records and everything. It's just your career is amazing. Just you went to world so many times, always getting medals and getting first places. And you correct me if I'm wrong. I think I saw that you were the first woman in the 47 kilo weight class to
Mhm.
lift 200 kilo
Yep.
deadlift.
Yep. So I
That's
was
insane.
yeah.
It's
So
like
I'm the first,
4.3 times your body weight. It's
yeah. So like the first one to pull over
crazy.
200 and, the first natural female to pull over 4 times their body weight. Um, both very just unreal experiences, right? I first pulled 4 times my body weight. It was like 182 and a half kilos back in 2018. I was 44 kilos body weight.
Wow.
So that was a very historical moment for
Yeah.
not just myself, but for women in general. Like, oh my gosh, this is the first woman in the IPF to ever do something like this. And like that was a very great competition for me, like just tremendous competition. Um, and when it came to pulling the 200 kilos 2 years ago, like, gosh, to think about that was 2 years ago is insane. Or maybe a year ago. A year ago. Yeah, just 1 year ago. Excuse me, I'm 33 and old. But um, you know, I was not supposed to pull 200 that day, right? Like they had a number set in stone. And when Canada went out there, crushed her third attempt, the USA is like, no, we need to up this weight because we're going to make sure Heather gets on the podium. And I remember I was standing there and I'm a very observant person. And I see the screen change and it was just flashing a temp change. And I'm like, for me?
Oh no.
And like at that point, I knew there was no other number in my head. They're loading 200 kilos. And I had to go ahead and start controlling my adrenaline. I knew I had lifted 200 kilos in the gym like over and over and over again. But it's a little bit different once you step on that platform and just the pressure like, hey, girl, you get this, you got third. You miss this, you're off.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I knew it. I didn't look at what number was loaded because I knew what the weight looked like the second I walked out there. And for me, when I'm pulling the slack out of the bar, I can tell you in that moment
Yeah.
that I'm going to get the weight, right? It's not when I start pulling, it is how my hands fell in that bar. So I knew the second I started pulling the slack out of the bar, I'm like, oh yeah, I got third now. Like 200
That's great.
kilos, it's going to come up. And there was never a question in my mind like, is it going to come up hard? Like, am I going to fight for this? Like, no, I knew it was going to come up like and probably relatively easy, which it did. Um, but considering how the rest of that competition had went, like that was a Hail Mary for me. And like for people who may not know what a Hail Mary is, this is like the throw to win it,
Yeah.
right? The throw that's gonna get us where we want to be because I had like a a real weird like neurological injury to where my leg during squats just was not working. Like my left leg
Oh,
was just didn't want to like the muscle mind thing wasn't there. And I'm like, hey man, there's like no pain, but my leg's not moving. Like I can't push up. So they had me backstage like doing all of this stuff.
I
Um
saw a video of that
yeah,
and I was like, is that was the same competition? Like
yes.
you're
And
going to
like
have, wow, that's insane.
I I couldn't but like because my whole like prep leading up to that was so good. I'm like, hello, like why are you not working? What is going on? And when I tell you like they were backstage like helping me out like we need to get this thing fired up like we need something needs to start connecting and it did. um they did actually red light my third squat and then ended up overturning it So in one video, like you'll see me shaking the hands of the referees because at the end of the day, it's not their fault for calling me on my squat. It's totally on me. So I go by and I'm respecting them. And then I'm backstage just like accepting, like, okay, well, this isn't the first time I've gotten disqualified from a competition, but this is like a more serious one. Just
Yeah.
to be told by my coach, like, no, no, like they overturned it, like you're still in the game. I was like, hey man, that rules. Let's go. So, thanks to the jury for overturning it, um, which, was great because had they not, I wouldn't have been able to break this world record. So, you know.
Wow, it's amazing. That's amazing. So strong. It's just like, but some people don't understand. Like, this record is really important in the history of powerlifting for
Yeah, and
women
you know what?
because it's across all categories. I mean, you're the
Yeah,
first to do 4.3 times your body weight. It's just
and I've held this
amazing.
record since 2017. This
Yeah.
might be one of the longest standing records. So in my mind, I'm like, hey
Wow.
man, if y'all want to break it, by all means, please. Like, I love it. That's the thrill for me. Is like when
Yeah.
you see like all these lifters like up and coming and they're just they're setting that standard. They're doing great things, right? That's what you should want for a sport. You shouldn't want to be, you know, at the top just cruising, nobody's around to challenge you. Like you should be a competitor that welcomes challenges. And I can respectfully say in the 47 kilo class, like this class used to be like second nature to people. It's the little girls, they're going. But now you got people like Tiffany Chapone and Jessica Espinal, just to name a few. Respectfully, there's a few more I could just name off the top of my head. But just to go by, these top two people right here, like they are setting a very challenging standard for every other 47 kilo female to, hey, you know what? You're going to have to work a little bit harder. So, but I love that. I love that they are setting that new standard, especially at their age. They're young, and where I'm at in the sport now. Like respectfully, I cannot wait to see where they set that standard just in this coming year. Like what
Yeah.
it is now is not going to be anywhere close to what it's about to be, and that should be talked about more often, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. Like your class is just so strong. Like I'm amazed of what
Yeah, like,
everybody's
what's in the
doing now.
water? What's in the water?
Yeah.
I'm confused, like, people,
Definitely.
they're like, "Hey, man, like, what are y'all eating? Like, what did you eat growing up?" I'm like, "Baby, I ate nothing. My family was dirt poor." You know? Like, maybe this was just like, "You know what? God's like, I can't
Yeah,
provide her all the food that she may need, but I can give her this."
she's got
Uh,
strength.
so
Also,
I don't have an
as
answer for
you,
that one.
yeah, that's good. And you talked about a bit in the last competition that you did, the competition we just talked about, and you had a problem with your squat. But
Yes.
and you also had other injuries that you have had to face, right?
Um, well, I wouldn't necessarily. So this is where I tell people it's not necessarily injuries that I'm going through. It's more of the health issues, which I'm very open about speaking about. So to just
Yeah,
try to
can
take
you
a
tell
big
us a bit
situation.
about your current situation?
Yes. So, with what I have going on now, I have tumors like on my uterus,
Mhm.
which that just got found out a few weeks ago. So, before that, there was a lot of hormonal issues. And, as women, that is very detrimental. That can cause a whole bunch of issues. So, like, my body wasn't producing enough estrogen, and then they put me on this estrogen, and then my body just starts bleeding. And I'm like,
Um,
hey man, like it wasn't a menstrual cycle. It was, I'm standing here having a conversation with somebody in public, and I feel like I've just peed myself. And it's not pee, it's actually blood just going down my legs. Um, so I'm in and out of the hospital throughout this whole like 2024 year because they want to say it's this and no, all of a sudden it's this, but okay, now there's swelling happening and bleeding happening. Like I need to take a step back and figure out what is going on. Like, of course, I've had the polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which, is very common among women. So, women, if you're feeling weird, please go get that checked out because there is help for you. But, I just brushed it off as that. And I think doctors were trying to brush it off as that. So it was nothing more serious than it was. But when the situation progressively continued to get worse, that's when they're like, no, you need to come back in. We need to do all these exams on you. And because they did those exams, that's when they started to find those tumors that had developed on my uterus. Now, the good news is they are benign. The bad news is they are very large. So they have to be removed, which has prevented me from competing at Equipped IPF Worlds in Iceland that just happened last week. Which that was very sad for me. Like I get it. Like I have to take that step back to focus on my health. But when I knew like I could have done so well at this competition and that competition would bring about world games, it's hard to take a step back and say, I'm having to miss out on these very important aspects of my career for something that is just totally out of control. Like, I have no control over this situation. It is so far out of my control, but I have to trust that my doctors know what they're doing. And just this Monday, I had an appointment for it. So, moving forward in December, we are going to do a procedure to remove the tumors as best as we can so I can continue just to go about normal life without something, without just bleeding everywhere. Like that would actually be really cool if that could stop. So,
Yeah, that would be better.
but
But
I
yeah,
think like
definitely, it's important what you
it
said
is.
to let women like get checked because you never know if you feel something weird. Be conscious about
Yeah.
how your body feels.
Right. And I don't know how it is where you are, but from my experiences in the US, women's health is not taken probably as seriously as it should be. And if if a woman is coming to you saying, "Hey man, I'm not feeling good. Like this is happening to me." We should probably take that a little bit more seriously instead of just brushing it off as something that's not so serious. Like just run the test, right? It's going to get paid for regardless if they have insurance, if they don't have insurance. But, I think what ends up happening is because it's not taken as seriously, it turns into something way more serious for this woman. And then it's kind of too late for them to get the help that they should have probably gotten in the past. Now you got to do a little bit more stuff. So maybe those tumors could have been seen in the past that because they didn't do the scans. But I mean, the good news is, again, like they've seen it now, so we can move forward in the approach of getting them removed. But it's hard. And so I hope that, in the year 2025, women in any kind of health situation can go in, say, this is what's going on,
Yeah.
and they be treated accordingly. So
Yeah, and that
we can
they
always hope
they
for that.
hear them out. Yeah, sometimes that's the problem. Sometimes they just don't hear them out. So it's
Yeah,
like, no, it's
because we're
okay.
seen
It's
as
not okay.
emotional and dramatic. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I get it. I can be both of those things, and I can do those very well, but I'm pretty serious right
Yeah.
now.
Like something's not right here. Yeah.
Something is not right. And I had to say that almost like, I mean, when I tell you, I had to have somebody come with me to the doctor because I felt like they just weren't listening. And so I was like, no, 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 no. I'm not going here by myself. You. not a random stranger off the streets, but one of my friends, like, you're coming with
Yeah.
me. I need you to see what is actually going on. And they were just as like thrown back by it as I was. And I'm like, see, I'm not crazy. They're like, because they were making me feel like I was this crazy person. But I think the more people I got involved, the more they're like, okay, 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 okay. We're getting a lot of pushback from this person. She's not stopping. And I had to end up telling that to somebody on social media the other day. Like, if you really feel like something is wrong with you, do not settle for some crazy answer they give you. Like, if you think it's wrong, tell them it's wrong. Like, do not settle for anything that you deem as not correct. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That's great advice. That's great advice. And to face everything like that, I think it applies to everything, really. Like
Right.
when you're certain of something, you just gotta go for it and keep on pushing about it.
Yes.
So yeah, I hope everything goes well for you with the procedure in December so that you heal fast
Yeah, and
and
I
we can
think I
see you
think that's the
again.
thing. Like, you know, women, hey, this could be a biased opinion, but we can probably go through just about anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are able to give birth to actual human beings, some weighing like 5 kilos, right? And then we're expected to go to work not too long after.
Yeah.
So it's crazy when I hear about these procedures that they want to do to me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you're going to do this procedure and you're going to leave the next day or probably the same day." I'm like, I am? Like you're this are you
Yeah.
okay? Because if it was, because hey, when men get sick, they sneeze, it's the world is ending. The world is ending around us. Women, we get sick, okay, we still got to go about our business.
Yeah.
Oh, you just had these tumors removed? Okay, well, I'm gonna need you to show up for work the next day. So be here on time. Like women are rock stars, like
Yeah.
undefeated rock stars of the world. Like you cannot convince me that a woman is not capable of literally doing anything they set their mind to. They're-
Yeah.
You
We can do
can't.
anything. Yeah,
You can.
definitely. And so looking forward a little bit, because
Mhm.
this year has been a year for taking some time to figure this out
Yeah.
and heal. And how do you see yourself in the future? Like what what are kind of some plans that you and goals that you might have for the future in powerlifting?
So I think moving forward, like 2025, I'm still going to compete. I still plan to compete at Powerlifting American Nationals in April, which is in Atlanta. Short drive for me, so that's way cooler. Um, you know, I feel like because of what 2024 has done for me, like it has brought me to my lowest, and not lowest as in like strength wise, but lowest as in physicality and mental health and the emotional health of things. Like it brought me down to where I'm just like, man, the only thing that can happen in 2025 is I go a little bit up, right? So that's what I'm most looking forward to in 2025 is regaining that mental, emotional, physical strength back and showcasing, hey, this is why my name is still spoken about. Like, I'm 33 years old, right? I'm seen as a veteran in the sport, essentially, but there's a reason why my name is still in the chat, right? Because it brings me back to, you know, like that humbling experience where I just got disqualified the competition before, and now I'm at this competition waiting at weigh-ins, and people aren't remembering, hey, Heather in 2024 was really, really sick and she was not able to do this. Like, no, these people are like, no, Heather's coming back in 2025. Like,
Yeah.
and she's gonna be healthier and she's gonna be able to do whatever she sets her mind to. And that's what I'm hoping to bring back. I'm hoping to bring back that confidence that was trying to be taken away from me this year. Like, I still know I am fully capable of doing great things. And I do plan on showing that in 2025. Um, and not just as like an athlete, but as like a meet director, a mentor, and a referee for the sport. Because, I don't want to just hold that standard of Heather's a great competitor. Like, I want to be great in every aspect of the sport of powerlifting and ways I can give back to the sport of powerlifting. So while 2025 may be I'm not going to say the comeback year, right? I'm going to say the healthier year.
Yeah.
That is what I look more forward to, and being able to enjoy this process all over again. Because while I may not be medically cleared to essentially lift a lot of weight for me, um, I am cleared to start lifting weight. And I was I was squatting what I was benching yesterday, and that was so funny. Like, I didn't even want to send my coach the video because I already know what he's going to say about it. But it just felt so good to be back under the barbell and just saying, okay, this is where I'm at, but this isn't where I'm staying. So 2025, like, I'm coming back, hopefully bringing my strongest self, and just ruffling some feathers again. I like to ruffle feathers in the sport.
We can't wait to see that. That's gonna be great. And yeah, I love how you said that 2025 is gonna be your healthier year.
Yeah.
Just like learning from everything that happened to you this year, taking that to next year. And I love that you wanna be a part of everything in the sport. It's so important, especially
You
in
want it to
mentoring
grow.
and everything.
Like, people say all the time, I want the sport to grow. I want it to be here. I want it to be there. But what are you doing to make sure that happens?
Exactly. What are
Like,
you doing
you have to
about
do
it?
you have to do your part, right?
Yeah.
And there's no competitions in this area. Okay, now you have a meet director. We can bring you competitions. But you know what? Like, again, you have to be the person to make it happen. You cannot just rely on everybody else. You want to see change, be change. It's as
Well,
simple as that.
definitely. And I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned your coach, and when you were gonna send him the video, you didn't want to send. So how have your coaches influenced you or shaped you into the power lifter you are today?
So my coach, Kedrick Khan with Reformance, um, he is incredible, right? And he's not only incredible as a powerlifting coach, but he's incredible as a nutrition coach as well. Like, he is one of the smartest people I know. But one of the biggest things I can say about him is he treats you like a human being. Like, you are a human being above an athlete any day of the week. And so when I do share these things with him, his first initial response is, "How can I help? What can I do to help you?" He checks in on you. He makes sure that above all else, you are doing okay mentally, because life happens, man, and life is sometimes very hard. And it's only a little bit harder when the people who you're essentially putting your trust in only sees you as a payday, right? Like, him being there for me on and off the platform speaks volumes about who he is as a person. Because I have had those people who, unfortunately, I'll be like, "Hey, like, my shoulder's hurting. Okay, well, I still need you to do this."
Yeah.
Okay. um, and he's really taken the time to know me as a person. And he accommodates around my specific needs, right? Like, if I can't train with my belt, okay, then we'll do these things. We will still make sure that we're able to train, just in a way that's not going to hurt you, not in a way that's going to make everybody mad at you in the medical field. Because even when I didn't want to do NAPF, I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm scared. I'm going to get hurt. He said to me, okay, that's fine. We won't do it. And then like a day later, I was like, hey man, I've been thinking. I think I want to do it. And he's like, well, it's okay if you don't. Like, I'm going to support you either way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. But I'm only doing it if everybody listens to what I say. And like, that might sound crazy, but I 100% meant that. Like, we're going by what I want to hit and what I want to do. And the second that's not respected, I'm out of here. Like the directors, the team coaches, everybody knew that. And I had a perfect meet. I went for 9 for 9. I didn't hit per se PRs, but again, I just came off of an ovarian cyst rupture, and a week later, I'm crushing weight again. Again, women's bodies are freaking awesome, but you know, regardless of if I did that competition or not, he still was going to be like, okay, let's talk about your next goals. What does Heather want to do? So, just continuously having him on my side and respecting me for who I am rather than just what I can provide for his business has been huge. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're going to disrespect me, I'm out of here. I can go find somebody that's going to respect me, which is probably why I've kept him around for so long. I'm very, very loyal when it comes to coaches. And I mean, there are times that we outgrow people, and that's fine. But when you have somebody that's really, really good and they're meeting and checking off all those boxes for you, God, you got to hang on to them a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
awesome dude. Awesome dude.
that's great. Yeah, it's so important that they treat you like you say, like they take in account everything that's happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at the end, a power lifter, yeah, we need to be strong physically, but you have to have it along with your mind. And that's the only way that it will happen. Because if your mind is not in check and your coach is not worried about that part,
Yeah.
I mean, you can be as strong as you want, but in a meet, you can just crumble.
And he gets it.
So,
He gets it. Like, I tell him, this is what I like to do before meets. And he'll bring it up. He's like, hey, Heather, did you do this? It's kind of like a ritual. Like, we all have our things. And
yeah.
I'm like, no, I didn't do that because they didn't have it. And he's like, okay, so when you are in a situation when they don't have what what your routine is based off of, what else can we do that's going to kind of ease your mind?
Yeah.
And
Prepare
it
you
worked.
mentally.
Yeah,
That's
like,
great.
he's like, "Okay, this may not always play in your favor, so what is option B and C that you can have that's, like, gonna allow you to essentially perform the same way as if you were having that steady routine?"
Yeah,
So
it's great. That's amazing. And I wanted to ask you, because we
mhm.
are getting close to the end of our interview, so we don't take up more time for you, but I wanted to ask you if you can give women in the sport that are just starting out any advice at all, like specific advice you might want to give them. What would it be?
Um, my specific advice would be focus on your goals, focus on yourself, and focus on what it is you are trying to accomplish. We get in this mindset where we play the comparison game, where we look up lifters and, well, if I lifted like that, I would be better. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Don't ever compare yourself to me. If you tell me I want to be like you in this sport, well, I personally want you to be better than me, right? And you're very capable. Newer lifters are so capable, and I hope that, if I could give a bit of advice, is never lose track of the willingness and the capabilities that you have in you to be as great as you allow yourself to be. But you can't compare yourself to somebody that's been doing this for 10 years or 20 years when you're just starting out, because there's so much more room to grow. And I know for me personally, I like seeing that growth from these newer lifters, because I can see a new lifter and be like, they're going to be great. And I try to remind people that you are great and you are capable of doing great things. Um, just keep on with what you have set for yourself, and you will be just fine.
Wow, that's awesome. Great advice. We are so happy that you accepted our invitation to talk to us. And I would like to leave you a little bit of space to tell us what you would like for the sport in general in the future. What would you like to see for the sport in the future?
Man, I want to see it become bigger and better. But that, again, that starts with us. Keep pushing out those videos, those squat videos, those bench videos, all those videos that you think people don't care about. Keep promoting them, because at the end of the day, you're going to find one person that you're inspiring, right? And the more people we get involved, the bigger that we can be. And then you're going to see the sport grow as a whole. And that's only going to benefit all of us in the long run. So keep on pushing out that video. Keep on pushing out all those training videos that you can, because what we want is the sport to grow. And we got to understand that to make it grow, we got to be the ones to do it.
We're all
We can see those crazy strong people come out of nowhere again. I love it.
Yeah. They're out there. They're
out there. And you know what? They're probably somebody's 10-year-old son or daughter watching you lift weights. I love those videos, because I'm like, holy crap. I want my kid to do that.
Yeah.
They are the future of this sport. So
they truly are, yeah.
Yeah, they literally are. So
yeah, thank you so much, Heather, for your time. And we are so excited to see what's coming for you next year. And we wish you the best and everything that's coming for you too at the end of the year, that everything goes well with your procedures. And thank you so much for your time. Is there anybody that you would like to see on this podcast next that we can interview?
Samantha Calhoun.
Okay, yeah, we'll reach out to her. Okay.
She's awesome. She's knowledgeable, smart girl. Highly recommend. She's been in it for a while, but you know what? I have to keep her up there with some of the greats. So definitely Samantha Calhoun. I'll even send you her Instagram page.
Yeah, please. Please, so we can reach out to her. That would be amazing.
Of course.
Thank you so much. And you can just say bye to everybody. And
bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Of course.